Time for another little Bibites update. Here we are looking at day 3 of the Scavenger project, and what I see here is we are energy positive on plant matter at 400 energy, which means the brain has adapted enough to be able to sustain this creature off of plants. I'm just going to try to keep this one alive for a little while because it is 1300 seconds. It's the oldest one that I've found through this click-through. We are at 32,357 generations now. This is over 1,000 generations since 3 days ago when I started this. And this is all with the body mutation set to 0. So the physical look of this creature will not change as it's going through the generations. It will always remain this color. It will always remain this relative size ratio. It will always take this long to hatch. It will always have the same eyes. And the brain has to adapt to those parameters rather than the body adapting to the brain. I think it would be kind of cool to come through and do a body-only mutation after a while, but really I'm still after behavior. And this guy's off in the boonies again, not doing us exactly wonders, but it did serve its role in showing that these guys can gain energy, or at least partially utilize plant matter, more so than before. One thing I have noticed is that if we go in, whoop, that's not the button I wanted to push. If we go into this window here, we're up to 43 brain neurons and 132 synapses, which is also relatively huge. Because if we go, how are you doing? You'll be all right. Nope, violence. Never mind. You will not be all right. It happens. This is the Bibites. They all die. Every single one of them. But if I go into my folders here, and I look at the Prog Scavenger, which is what I'm working on. It's at 32,000. This one's 41 nodes. We have 43 nodes now. It was 35 hidden nodes at the end of the last centennial. Let's call it. Let's go with that. Is it a centennial? No, 1,000 years. It's a millennia. Whatever. Over the last 1,000 generations, and if we take an even further look back, we have the Argonagetsu, which these are sampled from, and this only has 33, so we're up 10%, or not 10%, 10 neurons, or 30%. It's a huge increase, especially since this sim has a very strong tendency to take neurons away rather than adding to them. Or that could just be me and my experience as somebody who's tried to hand engineer some behavior. This sim loves to delete my work. Just loves it. Well, it's part of the game, I think. Part of what makes it entertaining is figuring out what you think works and what actually does work. So, babies still can't really do well with plant matter. It's to be expected. I would not in any way expect these guys to be able to survive in a plant-only environment. Not yet. Not really sure how much longer it would take to do so. With the way the brain has been adapting to the body modifications that I made, I wouldn't be surprised if it got to the point where the babies were able to sustain themselves off of the plants as well, which, again, that is ideal. That is like the dream for these scavengers. It would mean that they aren't entirely reliant on meat for their survival. They need it. They'll still need it in order to reproduce or grow, but it's working, and I haven't done any hand engineering on these guys since I turned them into scavengers. So it's just kind of a cool thing that has turned out to be. The population is 74. I did turn up the biomass. What is it? It's over here. Let's see, biomass density. It was like 8, I think, when I first started. It's now 11, and it has the fertility to fill it, right? The idea for that was I wanted more whales, and I do kind of on average get a few more whales, maybe like 20 or 30. But what I'm really finding is that both for the whales and the scavengers, what I think is happening is that there's just not enough space. They keep just killing each other all the time, which is good for evolution. It's great for evolution. I still haven't managed to get the scavengers up to 100 population. I think I got 92 once, but it's going to collapse afterwards. There's nothing stable about it at that point. And from there, I've seen it get into the 30s as well during a huge population collapse. I have no idea what caused that, but you know, when all of the meat is taken up off the field because there's a huge surge of new bodies, there's going to be a starvation cycle every single time. And then there's probably a pretty strong correlation with the whale populations as well. You know, we're down to 285 from 310, and on average these guys are what, over 1,000 energy apiece. So they drop a lot of meat on the field all at once. This should result in a surge of scavengers. It's basic ecosystem kind of stuff right there. But I don't have a lot else to talk about with these guys for today. It's really just a day-to-day update. I think it's good to post these updates every day just because it gives a really good idea of how this sim progresses, right? We have measurable progress with these guys going from 800 energy capacity required in order to sustain off plants to 400 energy capacity. It's cool, and it's all brain, it's not body. So there is so much room in here just to optimize and make these little critters better. And here we have another one sitting on a plant. It's gonna die. Watch it die. No, it's not gonna die. But I'd like to say that it's had a strong positive impact on their life expectancy. However, the reality is 1,000 second plus is still rare, and 2,000 plus is just, it's a lucky day when you get one. You know, every once in a while I am seeing a scavenger instead of a whale when I press O to see the eldest Bibit. And it makes me happy when I do so, because I don't have to go clicking through and finding it. Hey, look, we found a 1095. 1095. It's gonna die though. It's not gonna happen, man. You don't have a chance. No way. You're dead. Good night. You know, it'll feed another one of the scavengers. It's good. Prog whales have recovered since the 260 point drop. They make babies so fast though, it doesn't surprise me. I would love to be able to zoom out and kind of get a macro perspective on what's going on during these, but it's so chaotic and so messy. You do kind of get an idea for just how many of these whales there are, though. They are quite prolific. 326. I wonder what the diameter is of our world. Radius, that's 100%. That doesn't tell me anything. Nope, I don't think I'm going to find what I'm looking for in here. Something I'm not too big of a fan of is that if I want to expand the world and make it larger, I do have to go and start a new soup. Which is not really the end of the world, but I really like just having a thriving and established herbivore in the ecosystem. It sets a really strong baseline for what to expect. And there are ways that I could improve the numbers, right? If I wanted more scavengers, I could go in to their genome. I could lower their body size. Maybe I could lower this guy right here, the maturity exponent, so they don't get as big, which honestly I think would benefit these guys tremendously, is if I just kept them relatively small. I don't want to, though. Part of my goal is ultimately to create bigger and bigger Bibites that are capable of sustaining themselves, and that on a meat diet is hard to do, again, just because they lose so much dexterity and precision when they get bigger. And when your food is scattered around and in tiny little pockets like the meat is, you really need that precision. It's key for the survival of the species. But they are absolute champions. This one's going to die. I would love to see some better avoidance behavior. I really would, because if it was not for getting eaten by the whales themselves, killed by the whales themselves, these things, the average life expectancy would be so much higher. But I don't expect my goal of a 2-hour life expectancy to happen in an ecosystem where there are whales that just eat plants. I think that in order to reach those levels of longevity, the scavengers are going to have to be able to sustain themselves as babies, or maybe not even as babies from plants, but definitely have some higher level behavior that allows them to more efficiently use the plants in such a way that they don't need an herbivore to hold up the ecosystem, right? They still eat plants, they just don't get a lot of energy from them. And I have a hypothesis that if I can get the larger versions of these to survive on a plant diet, but also reproduce on a plant diet, that the babies don't necessarily need to also be able to grow on a plant diet. I think as long as there is an adult that is capable of surviving, when it finds piles of meat, it already knows to create offspring, right? And those offspring will then theoretically harvest the meat and grow into an energy stable bioform. But this guy is holding on for dear life. He is pushing this thing out into the great oblivion. Now, an interesting thing here is we have the full stomach, we have no energy, but we do have a mostly stable health pool. If this guy were to get a single meat pellet, he'd be fine. I don't think he's going to survive. I think he's pushing his little pellet out to his own doom. But, you know, this guy is only less than 300 energy, and my expectation is that they'd be stable at 400 now. So he's proving that they are improving. Just like to call this out, we do have a population drop in the scavengers. We were up into the 82s, high 70s, and then we dropped under 50. So that is in conjunction with an increase in the number of whales. So what I expect to see happen is I think these whales are going to have a population collapse, which is going to increase the population of the scavengers. And I think we have sort of an alternating pattern with these two species. More of one means less of the other. And that's all. What do we got? Oh, the oldest guy. 2,357 seconds. These guys are so stable. These guys don't change. They only have 12 neurons, and that's all they need, which is a really big reason why I'm focusing on scavengers and predators in general. Is herbivores don't need complex brains in order to function, survive, and thrive, whereas scavengers have proven that they actually need more neurons than a predator does. So I think that's pretty neat. Eventually, what I think I'm going to do with these guys is, after I get them turned into a really solid scavenger, I think I'm going to try to turn them into a predator again, since they're just more advanced now than the original Argonigetchus. So, future process. We're only 3 days in. These guys are showing massive improvement. It's probably sooner than I think. So, we'll find out. Tune in next time for whatever happens next.